3 Ash Blossom, and of course 3 Infinite Impermanence.
All right, well, congratulations again on your result. A first place finish at a YCS with Sprite, nothing to shake a stick at. Anything else you'd like to add for the folks at home?
If you haven't played this deck yet, I really urge you to pick it up. It's a ton of fun. Honestly, Sprite is so good, I think you could play it with anything. With anything.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Okay, let's get this out of the way. As I've alluded to several times, I have a Patreon. And on this Patreon, viewers can vote for 1 10-minute testing a month. For some reason, in June, they decided to inflict upon me OJAMA Sprite. So, here it is.
Anyway, there's a lesson in there. I'm just not sure where.
So here's the list, and I promise that Dark Armed Dragon will make sense. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the #1 place to go if you need a pack simulator, a card database, or want to read a wealth of strategy articles. They also post breakdowns and lists from every major TCG and Master Duel tournament, including the Master Circuit series. Give them a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's deal with this ordeal. The OJAMAs are a series of level 2 vanilla beast monsters used by Chaz in the anime. They're presented as an annoyance, always lurking over his shoulder, much like this TMT. Since their original release, they've gotten a shocking number of support waves designed to mesh with Chaz's other playables, the armed dragon monsters, and the light machines that he used for VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon. These cards are incredibly broken, as you can pretty much print anything you want on a card as long as it requires you to unironically play the OJAMAs. We're going to use all of them to create a deck that's not only perfect for the greasiest player at your locals, but also the sweatiest one as well. Since these monsters are level 2 beasts for some incomprehensible reason, we can summon them off of Rescue Cat. It doesn't really matter if their effects are going to be negated if they don't have any. After that, we can execute a standard Sprite combo with a little bit of a twist, weaving OJAMA Assimilation into the mix in order to include an ABC at the end of our setup. It's an absolutely foolproof plan, except of course for the fact that we have no ability to play through anything, around anything, and lose to every single card found in every single sideboard. But let's not let that get in the way of some good old-fashioned suffering. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the OJAMAs, 2 green, 2 yellow, and 2 black. You might be wondering, why not 1 apiece? Well, OJAMA Magic, which we are going to use to get an unbelievable amount of hand advantage, requires you to add them from the deck to the hand. And it's not up to, you gotta have 1 of each. After that, we've got 2 blue, which is sort of a combo starter if you squint hard enough, 1 copy of pink and 1 copy of red. After that, we've got Dark Armed Dragon. Now, because OJAMA Match requires you to have an armed dragon in your deck, this is the one that is the least of an affront to God. After that, we've got 1A, 1B, and 1C. For sprites, we are on Jet, red, blue, and carrot 1 apiece, 3 Rescue Cat, 3 Nimble Beaver, 2 Nimble Angler, and then 1 apiece of Melfi's Caddy and Penny. For spells, we're on 3 OJAMA Assimilation, which allows you to reveal a light machine fusion from your extra, banish any number of OJAMAs from your hand, face-up, field, or graveyard, and then special summon fusion materials with different names, whose names are specifically listed on the card you revealed from your hand, deck, or graveyard, equal to the number of monsters banished, and can banish itself from the graveyard to target 3 banished OJAMA monsters, shuffle them into the deck, and draw a card. Usually you're going to draw an OJAMA. That'll make the rules. 3 copies of OJAMA Magic, which if it's sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, allows you to add an OJAMA green, yellow, and black from your deck to your hand. You're always going to be able to activate ABC. 2 Sprite Starter, 3 OJAMA Match, which can send an OJAMA card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard to add an OJAMA monster with a different name and an armed dragon from your deck and or graveyard, then normal summon one of those monsters, and during the main phase you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 3 of your banished OJAMAs, shuffle them into the deck, and draw a card, 1 Smasher, and 3 Pot of Prosperity. You might notice we're playing 0 non-engine. It's kind of like Fur Hire Runic Sprite, except instead of the 3 of slot that they put evenly matched into, we have a no of slot that we're putting nothing into. In the extra, we've got a copy of ABC Dragonbuster, Herald of the Arclight, Zeus, Downward Magician, Mannequin Cat, Onibimaru, 2 Gigantic Sprite, 1 Melty of the Forest, 1 Number 2, Nightmare Unicorn, IP Masquerena, Sprind, Link Spider, and Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. In the side, we've got cards, I just have no clue what we will possibly board out for them. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Vampire, and we've had this pilot on a couple of times. I'm going to be honest with you, give them a month in the tank, they're going to come back with something. We're going first, so I'm just going to show off what the combo looks like. We're going to begin with a copy of Rescue Cat. That's going to summon from deck a green and a pink. From here, we can go to a copy of Sprint, trigger the effect of the Sprint and pink in sequence in order to cycle, and then activate Sprint to send a copy of Nimble Angler. We are going to summon from our deck 2 copies of Nimble Beaver, and then activate OJAMA Simulation for ABC Dragon Buster. We're going to get A and B and C, and then start Link Summoning. We're going to go into IP Masquerena and Dragon Buster before making Gigantic Sprite and activating its effect for a blue. Here we're just going to do the Sprite combo line, blue for Jet, activate the effect of the Jet in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Starter, and then afterwards we can overlay for a Melfi of the Forest. That's going to trigger to get us a copy of Caddy. Let's go ahead and activate OJAMA Simulation, draw ourselves a card by shuffling those OJAMAs back into the deck, and we find off the top another yellow. Great, both in the grip. We're going to go for Caddy here and then pass back to our opponent. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Vampire Ghost. They're going to activate the effect. We're going to chain Caddy. Caddy's going to grab us a copy of Penny, and then afterwards they will go ahead and dump a copy of Familiar. Penny is going to summon itself, and then we'll make Herald, which is pretty good against Vampire. They're going to go for Familiar here, activate the effect, paying 500 in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Fraulein. They're going to go into Dark. That's going to give us a really sick target for Sprint. They're going to go for Ghost in response in order to make a copy of Grace and trigger the effect of the Retainer in Graveyard in order to grab from deck to hand nothing. Oh, wait, actually something. They have a Called by the Grave as well. They're going to grab from deck to hand a copy of Vampire's Domain. They'll activate that, then activate the effect by paying an additional 500. We'll go IP Masquerena in response in order to link off our opponent's board and make an Underworld Goddess of the Closed World to turn off the Voivode. They're going to go for Fraulein here, so they could theoretically walk over ABC, but we're just going to use ABC to banish the Fraulein. They do get back this copy of Grace, but that's not enough. And in main phase 2, they're finally going to get that Voivode out and then activate the effect, to which we will chain the effect of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Did you know this has text on it? At end phase, of course, we're going to go for the ABC Dragon Buster. They're going to chain the effect of the Voivode to negate, but no big deal. We should be able to clean up from here. We're going to begin with a copy of Rescue Cat once again. Realize that we actually don't have too much left in deck to summon, and then we'll put them at 300, use Sprite Starter, and get in for an embarrassing lethal. Despite the fact that this is one of the high-rolliest going first strategies I've ever played in my entire life, its end board still isn't invincible. This is especially true when you realize there are multiple decks in this meta that want to go second. Case in point, our second game is up against Mikanko, which, despite the comments to the 1-minute overview, does like to blind second. I know theoretically it can set up a combo on its first turn, but it's just so much better when it gets to play Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. We're going to go for the same combo, Rescue Cat for Sprint, we'll trigger Pink, and then we'll activate Angler to get a couple of monsters to our side of the field. Let's fire off the copy of OJAMA Simulation in order to summon from our extra deck an ABC Dragon Buster. First, we're going to go through the pieces, linking 2 of them off for a copy of Masquerena, and then afterwards we're going to activate OJAMA Simulation to shuffle all those suckers back into the deck and draw ourselves a card. Oh joy, the second Jet. You can see why the final build of the deck only has 1. We're going to go for Gigantic Sprite into blue, into red, I suppose, into Jet, into Starter, into, of course, Melfi of the Forest. We'll activate Melfi of the Forest in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Caddy. We'll set 1, and then at end step we'll activate the effect of the Caddy. We'll pass back to our opponent, who fires off this copy of Pot of Extravagance, drawing off the top. Okay, they actually already had the Lightning Storm, but I feel better knowing that it was the card off the top. Now, they followed up with the IKS, which means that whatever we make off of our Masquerena will survive. We'll use the effect of the Underworld Goddess to negate our opponent's field, which is going to do absolutely nothing. Then they will go for Prep Rites, and afterwards, the Ohime. That's really bad news, because this is just the straight-up OTK. Now, we do get to lock to the Graveyard, which may prevent them from getting 1 of the 3 necessary to their side of the field, until I realize they can just bounce the Kaiju and then tribute over the Underworld Goddess. From here, they're just going to use a Legend in order to send a copy of Miyawashi Dori, and then use that to summon back the copy of Huli. That's lethal on board, so let's go ahead and scoop it up. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Kashtira. It feels weird calling Kashtira meta. It's like clearly the best deck in the format, but I feel like I never see it anymore. I think people are just fucking bored of it. Speaking of, I'm bored of it, which is why I'm going to activate Rescue Cat's effect instead of playing a good deck. Green and pink come out, and then afterwards we'll make a copy of Sprint. We'll trigger the effect of the pink in the graveyard in order to draw and cycle. Great, another vanilla. That's exactly what we needed. We'll trigger the effect of the Angler. That'll summon from our deck 2 copies of Beaver. And as you can see with this grip, we don't have the mostly unsearchable copy of OJAMA Simulation. That means that we are just going to have to make a normal sprite board, but we're playing a whole bunch of vanillas for no reason. We're going to go Melfi of the Forest for a Caddy, special the red, set a couple of cards, then at end phase activate the effect of the Caddy, and pass back to our opponent. They're going to begin with a copy of Book of Moon on the Caddy, which is disastrous. Next, they're going to go for Fenrir and go to the battle phase. We'll activate Smashers here, but they have the Lance, which means we'll banish the Lance. They're going to walk in and then trigger the effect of the Fenrir. We're going to go ahead and negate that, but try and keep it on their side of the field. I guess. I don't really know what the play is here. We're going to go for Carrot here. They're going to activate the effect of the Rise Heart in hand. They'll activate the effect of the Rise Heart on field, banishing a copy of Birth. Then they'll activate the effect of the Fenrir to grab a Scare Cache. They're going to overlay for Dracosack and then pop itself to eat the spell negation before going for Unicorn and grabbing the spell that wins them the game immediately. They're going to go for Theosis, targeting the Unicorn and summoning a copy of Fenrir before they activate the Scare Cache in hand, banishing the Theosis and using the Theosis to get back this copy of Birth. They're going to overlay for copy of Arise Heart, activate the effect of the Arise Heart, banish this copy of Gigantic Sprite, and then trigger the effect of the Arise Heart to attach a Theosis, activate Birth, use Birth to get a Fenrir. Now, they've got themselves into a situation where they don't have anything proactive to do right now. So we're going to go for yellow, overlay for Ninja Skeeter, and just walk directly into an enemy controller, and then just concede afterwards. There's no reason to play this one out. So it's time for game 2, and oh my god, we drew OJAMA Magic. We're going to actually get to do it. We're going to begin with a copy of OJAMA Match. We're going to pitch the OJAMA Magic to grab a copy of Red and a copy of Dark Arm Dragon, trigger the effect of the OJAMA Magic, and just so you know, there's actually not a way you can do this. OJAMA Magic has to be Chain Link 1 because it's mandatory, and OJAMA Red has to be Chain Link 2 because it's optional, which means theoretically, I guess we could have normaled the blue, then after resolution normaled the red and gotten a bunch of material, but then we would have gotten a small amount of material because the board was already full from the blue. I can't believe this deck is this bad. We're going to normal summon a yellow and go into a Masquerena. Oh, joy. What a powerful, impactful normal. Special summon a Caddy and hope for the best. Thankfully, we're going to get the best because they drew 2 Birth and no names. God, do I love this deck. We're going to go for Sprint here to bounce this copy of Scare Cache. They're going to chain Econ. I think there was maybe a different way to do this, but not with a Caddy on board. We're going to go for a Sprite Smashers in order to target the Birth, and that should be all she wrote. They will pass turn, and God forbid this deck try to assemble lethal. We do draw OJAMA Assimilation, which simplifies the process massively. We're going to go ahead and make a copy of Nightmare Unicorn, normal summon a Beaver, activate the effect of the Beaver to get a Beaver, and then go for a Gigantic Sprite and an ABC Dragon Buster. Okay, thank goodness. Let's get to game 3 and hope to high roll an opponent while playing 0 non-engine. So it's time for that all-important game 3, and okay, well, that didn't work. Our opponent's going first, and this is a pretty weird hand for them. An Ash Blossom would have kind of ended the game right here. They're going to go Unicorn into Birth, and then afterwards get a special summon a copy of Fenrir, activate the effect of the Fenrir to get a copy of a Rise Heart, go into a Shangri-Era, go for Rise Heart. Seems like they could have played around non-engine if we were a deck that was playing any. They're going to go for a Big Bang in order to cycle this copy of Unicorn, and then they're going to make a copy of a Rise Heart, set 1, and pass. For turn, we're going to draw a Rescue Cat. That's not nothing. They're going to go ahead and get a Fenrir. Afterwards, going to activate Pot of Prosperity, try and find something to dig us out of this. I mean, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's definitely not it. And that's not it. Okay. We will go ahead and take the starter. They're going to go Arise Heart and Shangri-Era, which of course triggers off of our Pot of Prosperity. But they're in a weird position in that their Shangri-Era has 2 materials. So if we don't activate any effects and just go to battle phase, we can use Smoke Mosquito in main phase 2 to go into Downerd. They're going to infip the Downerd. Then afterwards, they're going to use, oh, I see what's happening. Arise Heart with 3 materials now. Thankfully, they forgot to press A, which means we do get to fire off the Zeus. Listen, we take those on Edo Pro exactly. We'll go for starter and okay, they had the Ash anyway. Okay, guess this one's wrapped up. We'll pass back to our opponent who draws Theosis off the top. They're going to go Fenrir for a copy of Scare Cache, activate Theosis targeting the Fenrir, and we'll just go ahead and scoop them up. So we're back with the deck, and wow, what a shock! It's ass! Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. OJAMA Assimilation gives access to ABC Dragon Buster, which in a Sprite deck raises their low ceiling just high enough to make a reasonable board. 2. OJAMA Match gives you an extra normal summon, so sometimes you can play through an extra hand trap. And 3. The OJAMAs look funny, so even when you're losing, you can look at their art and go, haha, weird. And the cons. 1. The deck's best combo piece is barely searchable unless you're willing to ram in an OJAMA Blue, something which could only happen going second and rarely happens because people just remove it. 2. It's got no non-engine space. This deck's engine is so overly heavy and clunky that it's nigh impossible to fit anything in without going to a 60-card pile of inconsistency. It's just really bad. And 3. Even when you draw a full combo, you're just making a clunkier Sprite board. Overall, no comedic value of playing OJAMAs is worth picking up this deck. Thanks for the money. And roll the patron clip. Thanks so much for watching. A huge shouts out to all of my patrons, but specifically Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ben Misera, Brett Henry, Bizen Queen, Chaotic Meatball, Kristen Malone, Da Bears, Darkmaster Zork, Derpin Dragon, DJ Elephant, Executive Slifer, Gabe the Green, John Piet, Jordan Kuntz, King Magic Ruler, Knight Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Materiality, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Melfistan, Mike Carlotti, NH6574, Puffins of Doom, Rose Lapine, Solar Flare, The Hollow King, Tootsie, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Yuki, and Yor. I couldn't have done it without you.